Hey guys, welcome to episode 17 of the Dash Gamer Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dash, along with my co-host, Mr. Paul James. What's going on, Patch?
Just chasing down the infallible trophy in Fall Guys. Cannot wait to get this bad boy. Man,
Fall Guys, like, that game came out now, 3 weeks ago on PSN?
Yeah, 4 weeks ago, because the new PSN games are about to come out, and my love for it is still strong. It is still the biggest game in the world. So
I don't know, man. Like, I'm over it already.
Just a denier.
Guys, if you didn't know, I'm going to get this off Patch quickly. This is the Dash Gamer Podcast, a bi-weekly conversational podcast where we talk about the latest in the world of video gaming. Don't forget to follow us over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. We can give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. They surely help us out. And also catch the VOD over on dashgamer.com and on YouTube. Subscribe, hit that bell, give us a like, leave us a comment. All that jazz. It surely helps us out. Padge, any housekeeping for you this week?
Slimish pickings for me at the moment, but I'm just in this. Well, I've got the luxury of being part of a very big team at Player 2, and I'm starting to kind of wind things down a little bit as I kind of ease into, okay, baby's coming mode.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 episodes of Dev Diary to promote. Jared Trail, who a few people know from Rainbite, so he's done Reverie. They're working on Trigger Witch at the moment. He's the latest guest on Dev Diary, so you can go check that episode out on podcast feeds now.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one that I just kind of sort of revealed today in sync with an announcement from said person is that Colin Moriarty, a lot of people know him from Beyond and Kind of Funny, and he's these days off Colin's Last Stand. He's very much known for the podcast scene. But it just so happens he's also been working on games as well. So go and check out the episode. It's a week away at this point still. Shows fortnightly. So we made the reveal today in sync with the fact that he announced that his first game that he's worked on, Twin Breaker, is coming to Xbox One and Switch. And so I figured I'd piggyback on that bad boy and,
why not?
and make the announcement. So,
perfect.
Look out for that one. I also put together an article over the weekend off the back of a little event I virtually went to last week, thanks to 2K, where they were showing off and talking a lot about NBA 2K21, which is out later this week.
Right.
I put together a little article there because one of the things they were really emphasizing was basically how they're trying to be, obviously the biggest and best simulation game in the world, and how they're really trying to adapt to the COVID situation and what they're going to. Not in terms of just them as a studio and how they get by, but in terms of how the actual season, what they're representing in the game, is actually reflective of the real world situation.
Yeah. Yes,
so it was quite cool. I was really quite impressed by what they were doing, so I put a little piece together based on that.
Very cool, man. That sounds like an excellent read as well, so make sure you guys go check that out over on player2.net.au. As for dashgamer.com, we've only got a few things up. So, Operation PlayStation Episode 16 is now live, myself and Padge, of course. Also, for those wondering about Padge's status, I guess, Padge is probably going to be...
married.
Well, Padge will be on paternity leave for the next couple of months after Dash Gamer Podcast. He'll be back, but as for Operation PlayStation, it'll keep running as normal until
unless baby due date happens to sync up with when we go to record an episode,
and then we'll work something out that week. But Padge will be away from Dash Gamer Podcast for a couple of months. He'll have his seat filled in by some guest hosts that I'm organising as well, which would be really, really cool.
Guys, the bar's set really high, so
that's right, exactly. But I pray that Joel, magically turns up one week, because I'll tell you something, that guy's disappeared off the face of the earth. Joel, if you're listening, please, for the love of God, let us know that you're okay.
He just comes and goes when he sees fit. I love that.
Yeah, I know he'll be here next week anyways. Oh, sorry, in a couple of weeks anyways. So that'll be quite interesting. But what else we've got for housekeeping on Dash Gamer? PGA Tour 2K21 review. Thanks to the kind folk over at 2K. Tell Me Why Episode 1 review is now live. Thanks to the kind folk over at Xbox. That's actually a review in progress because obviously they're releasing it in episodic chapters, basically.
Clarify for me though. Weren't reviewers getting
The full
code
season?
that allowed them to access all 3 episodes?
Yeah.
Or are you just gradually rolling out because, of course, you don't want to spoil it for everyone else who can't access it yet?
Well, I didn't get the full season, so
right.
I'm on like a bit of a different deal with Xbox, but basically I only got access to episode 1, which is okay.
Yeah, okay.
I don't mind doing a review in progress because I'd personally rather do that because I think a lot of people would, in terms of a game like this, it's too spoilerific to post an entire review on a game like that.
Yeah, I was actually a little confused by that as well. And
Yeah.
I guess, and sorry, I'm kind of hijacking your
No,
plugs
please.
here, but like, I think about the old days with Telltale games, for example, and I mean, obviously the gap between episodes was obviously quite substantial, but you would review episode by episode by episode because it didn't make sense to wait, 6 months, maybe even more, to get the full season.
Yeah.
Here, the episodes are rolling out over 3 weeks. They're consecutive weeks, aren't they?
Correct. Yeah, I spoke with.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I spoke with
just review them one at a time.
I spoke with Kieran over at Well Played and Play 2. Play 2.
We'll take him.
Yeah, Press Start. So will I. At Press Start, and he was because he got access to the entire season. He was able to review the entire season, and I was like, that is it kind of confusing to you that you have to review the entire season? And he was like, well, yeah, because I don't know how many people actually read the review based on the fact that it's quite narrative driven.
Yeah, that's the thing for me. Like, I wouldn't want to read if I can't access and I'm not in any near future going to be able to access episodes 2 and 3. I don't want to read a full review that's going to outline some of that stuff too.
Yeah, it's a confusing
it's a
one.
strange one.
Yeah. Street Power Football review, thanks to Turn Left, was actually written by our newest contributor to the website, Ewan Hosey. We welcome him. He's our newest freelancer. He's going to be writing with us and obviously other various websites as well, but mainly with Dash Gamer, so that's really cool. Windbound from, and this is what PAJ has told me, Coke Media. So thanks
like
to
drink.
Exactly. Our Windbound review, thanks to Coke Media. Now, these ones will be live later in the week. If you're listening to the podcast on our Wednesday release, Control AWE review will be live thanks to the kind folk over at All Interactive. Our Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles review, thanks to the kind folk over at Bandai Namco. And our Wasteland 3 review, thanks to, once again, Coke Media. We'll have some anime content as well coming out on the weekend. I'm expecting something to arrive from Madman real soon, so that'll be really, really cool. And we'll also have, because you just wrote it here as well, Paul, our Ari and the Secret of the Seasons review will be live as well, thanks to the kind folk over at Turn Left. So that'll be really, really cool to dive into when we get our hands on that. Paul, that's it for the housekeeping for the week.
Let's do it.
Miss Ali Hart, what time is it?
Well, Dash, it's time for the news.
All right, Paige, it's time for the news. So this one's a weird one because I had a discussion with somebody last week about it, and it was kind of like half and half at the time, but now this pretty much confirms it. So the first story comes by way of Shannon over at Press Start, who says the Xbox Series X has now started appearing on Xbox Game Pass flyers. The Xbox Series X still hasn't been announced by Microsoft, but there's another piece of evidence that's to suggest that the console exists. If the console name appearing on a controller box wasn't enough for you, it now looks like it's appearing on Xbox Game Pass flyers. From a tweet from Bravery Brendan, he says, I got a new controller for my Xbox since mine was broken. Interestingly enough, the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate trial code sheet mentions the unannounced Xbox Series X. It's definitely a thing. The flyer reads, includes Xbox Live and unlimited access to 100 high-quality games on Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and Windows PC. So it's pretty clear. Go on.
When you're calling them high quality, are they really? Like, and that's not meant to be like some console wars bullshit. But just take that crap out of there. Just be upfront. Just go, hey, we've got this many games. That's awesome. Don't try and it's PR speaking. I hate it. It's
pretty. He goes on. It's pretty clear at this point that the Xbox Series X was supposed to be announced earlier in the. It's unclear at this point why it hasn't been announced, but it definitely looks like it's still on the way. I feel like Xbox Series S, like with the confirmation of it happening, they're holding on to it basically because now PlayStation have kind of come out and said, look, we're releasing an all-digital version of our box. They kind of want to be like, surprise, we've got our own all-digital, smaller version of this, the Series X. Would it be a surprise, though, if they turn around and said, look, our specs are exactly the same as our Series X, it just doesn't have a disk drive?
Not a chance. Especially when we've kind of seen, I mean, a lot of these mock-ups or actual designs, whatever it is, it's kind of leaked out. Like it's just not feasible for it to suddenly be that small in comparison. Like, no, this is, and also when you kind of add it in there with the the Xbox One X having been knocked out of circulation, this is totally just like a rebranding ploy. It's basically going to be an Xbox One X, different form factor, but fits in the new established Series family. So,
nothing's confirmed. That's the thing.
No, it's not. Yeah,
and if they can pull off the unimaginable here and actually put similar specs to the Series X into this GameCube-esque clone, basically, in terms of its shell, basically, then I would be astonished by the fact that Xbox pulled that off. And then, to say, okay, we have our old digital version, what you've got is basically the same thing, copy-paste without the disk drive on your PS5. And aesthetically, it's almost identical. It just has that weird bump on the design for the PS5. I love the Xbox Series X and Series S build look. Like I love the shell on it. It looks clean.
Oh, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
sleek.
And it kind of upsets me that PlayStation kind of went the route of the, I don't know, the abstract look again. They're kind of like that piano finish they went with the PlayStation 3 the first time around.
Which was stunning, I might add, I think. Well,
look, I thought it was stunning at first, but then afterwards when you got the PlayStation 3 Slim, you're like, man, that thing's a chunky piece of equipment,
The PlayStation gods didn't take kindly to that. My PS4 controller just toppled off a bench for some reason.
See, it told you, because it came with that piano finish, and the PlayStation 4 never ever had the piano. Well, actually, no, it had the piano finish on that ugly cover on the right-hand side on the OG one.
Oh, yeah, which, look, the only thing I didn't like about the piano finish is it scratches up super easily.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they replaced that real quick on the PlayStation 4 OG and started just putting the matte one there. But I mean, look, in terms of design, I think it's interesting. What do you think is going to actually happen once we get the Series S out? Do you think that it's going to be... Do you think we're going to see more of the Series X rather than the Series S out there?
Of course.
Yeah.
Marketing-wise, it just makes sense to lead with the Series X, and then it kind of... And not in the same way that what's his name that used to run Xbox before Phil Spencer, the one that completely fucked up. Don Matrick. Not in the same way that he kind of said, "Hey, if you can't get this, we've got a console for you. It's the Xbox 360." but it is kind of down that sort of pathway. Like, okay, so if the Series X isn't for you, we've got one that gives you access to the same games, so you're not falling behind, even though you kind of sort of are.
Yeah.
It's this thing here. It's still a Series thing. It's a light version.
I'm going to have to switch around the articles for this segue, because this one comes by way of Jonathan Dornbush over at IGN.
What have I
done? Because you basically went into something else that's actually perfect, because PS5, Ubisoft support page models PS1, PS2, PS3 backwards compatibility question. The Ubisoft support page has now been updated to not mention backwards compatibility. PlayStation 5's... Dornbush says PlayStation 5's full backward compatibility potential has remained somewhat of a mystery, as Sony has not confirmed or denied any potential for support beyond PlayStation 4 games. But or
anything else while we're at it.
Pretty much, yeah. But a recent and now updated support page from Ubisoft has further muddied the waters about what past generations the PlayStation 5 will or won't be potentially backwards compatible with. A Ubisoft Q&A page in response to a question about upgrading games from PlayStation 4 to PS5, as spotted by Warrior64 and confirmed by IGN, originally said that, quote, backwards compatibility will be available for supported PlayStation 4 titles, but won't be possible for PlayStation 3, 2, or PlayStation games. In a tweet by Warrior64, it basically takes a screenshot and he quotes, PS5 is not backwards compatible with PS3, PS2, PS1 games, according to Ubisoft's support page. The page has since been updated to remove all mention of backwards compatibility or prior PlayStation generations of hardware. It only continues to mention the upgrade process moving into PS5, as well as that PS4 players will be able to play multiplayer games with PS5 players, which is really, really cool. That's a question that's something we talked about last week on Ops, whether or not we could crossplay. So yeah, PlayStation 5 backward compatibility has been a murky topic for those looking forward to PlayStation's next generation hardware. And then he goes on to talk about the presentation that Sony did earlier this year. Paj, the reason I kind of brought that up was because Nibel also tweeted out in response to Warrior64's tweet here that he said, if you don't like it, we have a console for you, which is the Don Matrick thing, but he showed a PlayStation 3, which was the PlayStation 3 that had the SD card slot drive at the front and was backwards compatible with PlayStation 2.
That's the one I bought for $1,000 day one.
Did it yellow light?
Yeah. It had such a good life. And then we went and got a little mod for it, like a little fan mod for it to help kind of alleviate the issue, and it gave it about an extra month.
Did you reflow it?
Hey?
Did you get it reflowed?
I assume it probably was, but it didn't. It was, the heating issue continued to cause some problems with it. Yeah. Because it wasn't a yellow light for the majority of reasons that other people were getting. It was a pure overheating job, which was just causing disconnects between with solder there and things that weren't firing the right way. Yeah. They reattached that. They put a fan in there, and it still didn't do the job. So I've still got the console. So if I could find a way to get it sorted out. But
yeah, you can get them reflowed easily these days. The only thing you'd have to do is make sure when they're opened up, you got to make sure the motherboard isn't fried, and also. Thermal paste is applied properly on it, because that was the issue. And
I imagine that wasn't done perhaps properly last time.
No,
motherboard itself's fine because I can actually fire it up and get to the dash, and then it's just that it all falls apart from there because it just very quickly thinks it's overheating.
Yeah, you just got to get a reflow. That'd be easy. Yeah. Look, in terms of what we know now about backwards compatibility, I assumed that this was going to be the case. Talking earlier in the year about backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 5, I never expected us to have a guarantee that PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, or PS1 titles would work. I would have thought PS1 titles would have worked out the box, kind of like how they've did the PlayStation 3. I would have expected them to kind of have that rollback, considering that they skipped that on PlayStation 4 completely, but had that feature available for PlayStation 3, albeit removing the PlayStation 2 feature due to hardware issues such as yellow light, and the fact that homebrewers and hackers out there were able to achieve PlayStation 2 backwards compatibility on slim models. It's just something that it confuses me a little bit that Sony can't implement safely on their hardware, but third parties are able to do that unofficially. It's striking how they can't think, okay, we can't even set up emulation to kind of work it.
I mean, they can
work it well.
They kind of do it through PS Now, so it's possible for them. It's just a willingness to roll it out direct to the consumer. Do you think it's that would be the case? They want to make a subscription service out of it so that people are paying for PlayStation Now. 100%. I mean, if we just focus purely on PlayStation Now, they kind of changed the service a little bit to offer the download function. Now, that was only exclusive to PS4 games. Obviously, we don't have PlayStation Now here in Australia, full stop. Yep. I don't see how hard it is to just offer that feature, and then you need to be a PS Now subscriber, but you can just then download your PS3, PS2, PS1 games. Makes a lot of sense. Well, that's the thing too. And go the Switch's online sort of follow their lead, gradually roll them out. But when you do, obviously go the PlayStation path and implement trophies with them as well. I feel like PlayStation are kind of hopeless.
No. What are you talking about? They're not hopeless. I feel like they're kind of isolating their audience a little bit here by doing this. They're kind of like saying, okay, we know that we have a part of you that loves retro PlayStation games, but you ain't going to get it here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go find an old PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 2 on eBay and play your games there. It's not happening here. So, I don't know, man. It sucks, but what can you do? People are going to be mad over everything, but I look, the way I feel is that heading into the next gen anyway, we're not going to have time to play PlayStation 2, 3 titles. There's going to be
probably not
an abundance of PlayStation 5 exclusives, and that brings me to my next story, brought to you by Shannon over at First Start. Oh, man. Ratchet and Clank.
Nailing the segues tonight.
Yeah, no. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart will have a 60 frames per second mode. Following the reveal of the extended gameplay trailer for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Insomniac has now confirmed in an interview with Famitsu that the game will have 2 display modes. Whilst the PlayStation 3 versions of the game stuck to 30 frames per second in order to have best graphics, Rift Apart will have a 4K 30 frames per second mode as well as a 60 frames per second mode, which will run at a lower resolution, as expected, really. Other PlayStation 5 games that we know have a performance mode include Demon's Souls, Astro Bot, and Spider-Man Miles Morales. In another interview with Games Radar, we got more information about the haptic feedback of the DualSense controller, including the fact that we'll get to feel rail grinding and swinging. It's also looking like the female Lombax is Ratchet from another dimension. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is launching exclusively for PlayStation 5 in the launch window. I mean, look, it was expected that we would get 60 frames per second, but at a lower resolution. There were rumors that PlayStation 5 wasn't capable of doing 4K 60 frames per second. Those are strictly rumors right now. There is nothing to say that they won't be able to achieve that later down the line. I believe that there will be titles that will run at 60 frames per second at 4K. Graphically, will they be as rich as a Naughty Dog game, or is this? Probably not.
But not many games are. Like, there's a lot of games in our current PS4, Xbox One generation that aren't on the same level.
No.
That in terms of detail that you're just referring to there, as say the original Last of Us on the PS3. Like,
yeah,
okay, sure, they one up it in some raw technical areas, but the detail that Naughty Dog puts into their games is just, it completely eclipses what we see for a lot of games this gen. Well, let alone what Last of Us Part 2 does.
Well, even Ratchet and Clank, the thing is, graphically, it's demanding.
Yeah.
It's such a stunning game with broad environments that demand detail be put into it. So if they were to scale back on graphics and just pure demonstration of design and everything else, sure, the game would run at 60 frames per second, but it'd look like crap. And they don't want that. They want to be able to present the game, whether or not it's in 30 frames per second. I'm sorry, but you know what? PlayStation 5 and Xbox One, these are home consoles. They're not your $3,500 PC rig beast, whatever you want to call it.
Dorks.
That will be able to push those boundaries. These are essentially just home entertainment consoles, and that's what they want to push. They want to push that. And yes, fine, 4K will look spectacular on TV. Yes, you will get that, subtle downgrade, as people are putting it, that slump of 30 frames per second, which I personally don't care. I'd rather have
Who cares?
I'd rather have a locked 30 frames per second than risk the fact that I'm playing anything that may lag
Fluctuate.
or drop. Yeah, exactly. So 30 frames per second is fine by me, especially for a game that looks this spectacular and stunning as it is. I've got no problem with it, man. So
yeah, I personally couldn't care less. Like, people make a big fuss about frame rates and resolutions all the time, and good art offsets all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's exactly what we're going to be getting with Ratchet and Clank as well, and other titles like Miles Morales, which looked stunning when they revealed it.
And again, I've said this in various episodes of Ops and DGP over the journey. Like, we're at a point of diminishing returns. Like, we are getting less and less impressive jumps in what we get out of our games and out of the hardware that supports those games So who cares? Like, we're going to get to a point where, 8K and 120 frames, and no one's going to know the difference if it dipped, if it was at 60, if it was greater than 120. Like, who cares? No one's going to know or care.
Do you feel like... I hate to even think about this. Do you feel like on PlayStation 5, with such graphically demanding games, it's going to sound like a Boeing 747 when you begin? Like, and we're about to talk about Avengers pretty soon as well on the show, but I booted up Avengers for the first time tonight.
Works hard, doesn't it?
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Well, I want to say this first before beginning anything. Great game from what I've played so far. However, I know, right?
It's a poo game. It's a poo game.
Shut up, would you? I'll bring that up later. But great game from what I've played so far. But holy shit, right? If I was not wearing headphones, I wouldn't have been able to hear any dialogue. It's loud.
That was my experience with the beta.
Yeah. So it's loud. It makes your PlayStation almost seem like it's about to take off.
And that's obviously not a fault of Crystal either. That's purely a hardware thing. Anyone playing on Xbox One's not going to have that issue.
Well, that concerns me, because if games do come out on PlayStation 5 that are 4K and will run at 60 frames, we might be getting a repeat of this blaring in over...
It's down to PlayStation kind of recognizing the actual hardware, what it can do, what it can't do, what it needs in terms of circulation, and they seem to be addressing it. Yeah, I know.
6 fans. Not the
not
the 3 that we've got in this thing. And I'm not talking about the 3, the one big one and the 2 small ones. I'm talking 6 fans they're putting this in that thing. That's a lot of fans.
Push that air out faster, like a faster rate, quieter.
You better hope so, because I tell you something, man. Like, this gen has been tough having to deal with that noise.
I mean, that's a bit of a first world problem, but I follow what you mean.
This story comes by way of IGN. Jordan Oleman over at IGN, who says, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War PS4 beta release date leaked by COD World War II. He says...
wasn't leaked.
Sorry, was that?
Anyway, that's all right. Hang on. You do that first, otherwise I'm just going to shoot the whole article down beforehand.
Oh, boy. The release date for the Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War PS4 beta appears to have leaked, with early access for PS4 starting on October 8th. As reported by COD Tracker, details about the Black Ops Cold War beta have been found on the in-game storefronts for Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Call of Duty World War II. This post on the Black Ops Cold War subreddit has all the details, noting, quote, early access to the open beta begins on October 8th, first on PS4, end quote. The leak also confirms that the PlayStation 4 version of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, quote, plays on PlayStation 5 via backwards compatibility when it launches, end quote. According to the PlayStation 4 Black Ops Cold War reveal trailer, that the exclusivity agreement for the beta gives PlayStation 4 players access, quote, at least 5 days earlier than any other format, end quote. So if this leak is legitimate, it suggests that Xbox and PC players will get the beta on the 13th of September or perhaps later that week. Paul, what were you going to say?
All right, well, firstly, I mean, they rolled out an update for Black Ops... what's the most... Modern Warfare.
Right.
Like, just days before this event.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that the details were there, and they were, like, it's all part of a marketing thing.
Yeah.
So there's no leaking here. It's handy information, I guess. But that's about the extent of it. Another thing relates to the whole console, like the how did you just we were just talking about the compatibility between PS4 and PS5 and all that sort of thing. That's a really interesting mess. Have you done much reading on that situation?
No, what was going on there?
Okay, good. While I'm rambling, I just dropped a link in our doc for you to kind of throw open if you like.
Yeah,
it's at the bottom. It's at the bottom of our list.
Fantastic.
So the whole thing there is about the. There's been a lot of speculation. I think the control thing was the one that really kicked it off in terms of, why can't we get these upgrades onto both platforms? Why do we have to buy a brand new version of Control, the Ultimate Edition, or whatever the subtitle was for that next gen compatible one?
Mm.
And reading through the description, there's basically 2 bullet points that who put in the article? Shannon compiled the article.
Okay.
And he's getting a real shout out today.
I can do another one.
You can make a whole other video out of this.
Go on.
We love you, Shannon. But the PS4, PS5 version there, as we mentioned in the article, just perfect. Like if you buy the cross-gen bundle, boom, you've got it on PS5. That's Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
Xbox One, there's yes and no, because if you buy a physical version on the Xbox One and then expect to play it on Xbox Series X, it's not going to be possible. Only digital versions. Like there's some weird differences not only between the platforms, but then between physical and digital on the Xbox side of it, based on this Call of Duty example. So I don't know. Maybe via this little article here and other little things that are going to start to come out like it. Maybe Xbox is the reason why we're having some issues here with, or not issues, but there's some questions still being asked about compatibility of games on the new gen of consoles.
So you think that there's been a bit of a kibosh put on? What do you think it's Xbox?
I'm not suggesting. No, I'm not suggesting PlayStation is saying, "Hey, we're partners. Make the Xbox version worse." I don't think. I mean, Activision's not going to stand for that. Hell, even Bobby Kotick there, sitting in his mountains of money, he's not going to stand for that either.
No,
because you're jeopardizing your own brand as a result.
Yeah.
No, I'm wondering if maybe there's some flaws in the way that Xbox wants to roll out some of their smart delivery stuff or their cross-gen stuff that's actually creating a weird disconnect between physical and digital. And Call of Duty is the first one that, by just putting out these details, they're the first one that's kind of telling the world that there might be a little flaw here.
Yeah, possibly, but I wouldn't say that it's a sabotage or like they're trying to sabotage
No,
each
that's
other.
definitely not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just think it's what this little fact sheet has kind of indicated.
No. Yeah, there could
might be a hiccup in the way that Xbox is trying to implement everything that's created one little issue here that might actually be the reason why Control is the way it is and some of the other stories that we've heard.
We'll definitely see when it comes around, I guess.
Because we all thought it was PlayStation. And probably deep down, I still think it might be PlayStation because they're, a little bit ass backwards when it comes to backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
But there's now something that's maybe suggesting it's in fact the other way around.
Like what you're hearing today? Be sure to follow all Dash Gamer podcasts on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify by simply typing dashgamer.com into the search bar of your favorite podcast provider. And don't forget to check out our gaming, anime, and pop culture related news on dashgamer.com. Now, back to the show.
Paul, the following comes from Joe Screbbles over at IGN, who says, Sony reiterates again that the console, PlayStation 5, won't be delayed into 2021. He says it says in a quote underneath, we will launch this year. That will happen. So Scrabble says it might not seem totally necessary for Sony to tell us PlayStation 5 will hit its intended launch date again, but we live in a timeline where Halo Infinite got delayed. So with that in mind, Sony has reiterated that PlayStation 5 will not be delayed into 2021. Speaking to games industry, Sony Interactive Entertainment head of global marketing, Eric Lampel, made very clear to say, quote, "We will launch this year. That will happen. And from my end, we will absolutely make sure that we bring all of the magic and all of the excitement of launches that we have had in the past," end quote. I doubt that, but anyway. Lampel also made a point of noting that launch will see a strong lineup of games to be played on the new machine, both announced and unannounced. Quote, the content that we will launch, the content that will be in the launch window and beyond is incredibly exciting. I will say that this is the best lineup that we've ever seen in the history of PlayStation between our worldwide studio groups and our partners from all the different publishers around the world. We've revealed some of that content, and naturally there will be more to come. But the way that the developer can engage with this platform and create these new experiences with known IPs as well as unknown IPs is incredibly exciting. Paul, so here's my stance on this. It's great that like Sony are reiterating the fact that it's coming out this year. Like I feel like they're at a point where they don't have to, in a way.
It's November 13th, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. We know the date.
Well, we think we do.
But
we've thought a lot of things about this console.
No.
This year, but yeah. I know what you mean, though.
There was
There's
a tweet,
stuff out there.
and I actually gave it for the players to talk about because they literally were about to start the show, and I was like, here's the tweet.
Here's your show. Welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I feel like, the reiteration is they're releasing it obviously on November 13th in a week, and apparently, according to rumors, the Xbox Series X will release a week before that. I don't care about this anymore. Where the fuck is the price? Where's the price of these units now? That's where we're at. This is great. We're getting reiteration. The console is coming. It's September 1st. The day we're recording is September 1st, 2020. Yep. The console launches in 2 months. And we don't know a price.
For either.
And the pre-orders are not open. We don't know a price. What the fuck is going on?
And I mean, it's
COVID.
It's just it's COVID. But at the and you do not want to announce anything when it comes to something big like a console. This is not a game. It's not where you can say, look, okay, development hit hurdles and we're going to bump it to next year.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that they've got X number of consoles in hand because they then need to be able to provide them to the retailers / online distributors as well, and be able to be 100% sure of everything. So they're holding off till the very last possible minute.
Yeah.
September is the very last possible minute.
Yeah.
They can't afford to go any further. And that's why we've started hearing things, and admittedly it's not reflective of how many consoles there are, but there was an article that emerged or something that Xbox had posted in the last day that they've made 825,000 consoles with a carbon neutral thing.
Yeah.
Some carbon neutral sort of policy or whatever they were looking to implement.
Yeah.
Now, firstly, a bunch of idiots ran away with that going, oh my God, there's only 825,000 consoles. No, there's more than that. It's just that this batch is been made a certain way, and I think that's probably some sort of a trial for them in terms of being eco-friendly going forward. But like the consoles are made and they're stacking up, and they've got lots and lots and lots of them. They've made a commitment, presumably, to the various retailers around the world that you'll have this many, and they do not want to announce a date until they've guaranteed them that they're going to have that many. Now, I know that retailers here know the date.
Yeah.
I've spoken to someone that knows that the people above them have the date, but they won't pass it on to them.
All right.
And they're kind of apparently dangling that carrot in front of said person as well and being real assholes about it. Shame. But but they the date is out there. It's made its way to retailers. They're just NDA'd up the arse.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time. But again, September is the last possible minute they can afford to do it because, look, I think the whole people need to save has been a little bit exaggerated.
Yeah.
If you the people that are going to buy the console, as in the likes of you and I, we've been banking for ages
months now,
because not only were we thinking about the console itself, but we're also having to think about and the games that are going to come with it. So if we're just focusing on PlayStation, for the longest time,
we $1,000.
Spidey, we were thinking Deathloop. Now, obviously, Deathloop's not the case in the end, but Assassins. You're thinking maybe COD. You think there's a laundry list of stuff there for people straight out the gate. Not to mention the fact that Cyberpunk is still launching in that window as well.
Yeah.
On the old gen platforms, there's so much there. People have been banking money for ages. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And I've just been putting $200 away every month and just shit it in.
Well, I had the discussion with the people over at EB Games when they had their deal. Well, I tweeted them out, I should say, where they had a deal for people.
Oh, the console trade-in.
The console trade-in, which was magnificent. You trade in your PlayStation 4 or your Xbox One X for $450 each. Paid off your console.
I acted on that.
So I'm gonna be looking to do that when stores reopen here in Metro Victoria or Metro Melbourne, I should say, and take advantage of that deal because.
Oh, so they're going to.
Yeah, they're going to be honoring. They're going to be honoring that deal, which is really good. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I might go do it then.
I'm definitely going to take advantage of that deal, trading these units because I'm barely touching either of them at the moment. I have a backup PS4, which is my OG one. So I'll just use that until PS5 launch if I need a review or do anything. But you're right. It's one of those things where us gamers really, and I'm still saved for the PlayStation 5. I still put money away, even though that was just a surprise deal. but I put the money away just in case, and so I'm fine. I'm ready to go.
And there's enough rumors and speculation that have kind of guided people towards this. Now, they may not be correct. But there's been enough rumors and speculation that have guided people towards a certain number in their heads. Most of those rumors are going to be pretty close to the mark.
Yeah.
So people have bankrolled, if we're talking Aussie dollars, $800, $850, on the assumption that the price is going to be roughly in that ballpark, and they roughly will be. Maybe 100 either side or something like that. That's where all the speculation comes into it. But it's going to be in that window. People got their money. And again, the people doing it are the likes of us.
Yeah.
They're not, I play NBA and COD every year. They're not that person.
Yeah.
The one that hopes that maybe their parents will put it under the Christmas tree for them. They're not that person. It's us.
I had enough of them. Yeah, I had a discussion with I had a discussion with a listener earlier this week who listens to both Dash Game Podcast and Operation PlayStation. He wanted to have a talk with me about the release windows. He actually works at an EB Games, works at my local EB Games actually, but he's a uni student. And he was writing a thesis on different stuff that's happening, and also like the PlayStation 5 and Xbox One release dates and the consoles and all that stuff. Like why we haven't seen a release date, a price, or anything else. And COVID obviously came up in that factor, but I believe when I discussed it with him, I said that COVID was a situation that the companies were taking advantage of, and also antagonizing their consumer base in a way. Basically, they're scared, they're worried, they're afraid of being undercut from each other. Like one will announce one first, and the other one will say, "Okay, we're $100 less." Okay, fair enough. But we sit back and we watch this happen, and it's one of those things where you're right, Paul. Regardless, and you've stated this many times, where they'll buy it regardless. They don't care.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things where they antagonize their consumer base, and it's just a worrying sign, because then afterwards the loyalists out there who will turn around and be like, "Man, fuck you guys. Seriously, that's scummy."
They're not. But no, see, I don't see that happening at all. Like the loyalists are the loyalists for a reason.
Well, yeah,
they said they said the console would come out at the end of the year. They're delivering on that.
Yeah.
They just haven't specified the date, and they've got maybe they're leaning on COVID more than they should be.
That's right.
But it's a pretty damn good reason. And again, like I think my point before about them being able to guarantee retailers, like there's the business side of it as well. Like not even us giving the money over, but the transactions that go on between the retailers and and PlayStation, or retailers and Xbox. They need to be able to guarantee them, you've got this many. This is your allocation. We've held up our end of the argument. So they don't want to announce it. Like if we get to, let's say the planned announcement date was later this week.
Okay.
It may end up being, but let's say it was later this week. And they'd promised EB Games in Australia, I don't know, what's a reasonable number? Let's say 50,000?
Okay.
100,000?
No, more than that. They have to license, allocate both EB Games and JB Hi-Fi first.
So, what, 50-50? Let's just say...
What do you mean 50-50? 50,000 each?
I don't know. I don't know.
How many things going to land in the country?
I have no idea.
They reckon they're projecting 10 million units to be manufactured.
Yeah, okay, cool, fine. Okay, so let's say there's 1 million coming to Australia, because we're still far from the biggest market. You've got Europe and you've got America, obviously,
correct,
the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Not to mention Japan.
1 million.
So let's say Australia gets 1 million. That was their guarantee. If they get to a week from now and they're like, shit, we've only got 750,000, and that's all we're going to be able to give them if we hit this date, then they might go, well, let's buy a tiny little bit more time. Let's delay our console to 2 weeks later where we can make it happen. And obviously extrapolating across not only Australia but other regions of the globe as well. Like they've already made commitments, and they need to fulfill those commitments.
Do you think it's ambitious to project 10 million at launch?
But it was launch window.
Regardless, at launch, do you think it's ambitious for them to say 10 million at launch?
If they can make that many, that's great. It doesn't. They may not be able to sell them.
Yeah. So you think they're overproducing, over manufacturing?
I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter unless they expected the costs of parts to go down sometime over the next, say, 6 months, where they're suddenly, manufacturing more at a higher price.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't really matter. They can just have them sitting in factories and just roll them out. Like that's fine. Like no real harm in it. As long as they're not going to save or lose money in the process.
I feel because it's going to be at a higher price tag this time around, we're not going to see as many units sell at launch like the PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 was a hot ticket because it was at such a cheap price. Well, why? Well, not here. America, $3.99 it was a pipe dream, and it was reality, you know?
And they undercut the Xbox.
Exactly. So they were able to be, like a lot of Xbox loyalists there, who devotees, basically said, fuck you, we're going to PlayStation now because you guys screwed us so early on. Don Matrick fucked up their campaigning. But I feel like this time around, we're going to be seeing a level playing field. We're not going to be seeing an undercut. I believe that each console will be releasing at 800 to 850 here in Australia. And with that said, it's going to be one of those things that, with that level playing field, we're going to be like, okay, I feel like it won't sell over the other. It'll be basically, this is how it is. Fine, PlayStation 5 will probably sell a little bit more than the other because they've actually got stuff coming out for it. But then there's the loyalists who'll be like, no, man, I'll stick with Xbox because Xbox is what I know. And then price comes into a fact, price becomes that factor.
Yeah. And
doesn't sell as many as PlayStation 4. So, moving away from PlayStation, Paul, but we're heading back once again to Shannon over at Press Start. He says,
hot tonight.
Yeah, I know. A live-action Resident Evil TV show is coming to Netflix. When we've now got more details on the Resident Evil TV show that's coming to Netflix. It'll feature the Wesker kids that have just moved to New Raccoon City. It's unclear when the series will debut, but 2021 or 2022 is likely. It's been directed by Bronwyn Hughes, who is responsible for directing episodes of The Walking Dead and Breaking Bad. Quote, when the Wesker kids move to New Raccoon City, the secrets they uncover might just be the end of everything. Resident Evil, a new live-action series based on Capcom's legendary survival horror franchise, is coming to Netflix. The 8x1 hour episode season will be helmed by Andrew Dabb of Supernatural, Bronwyn Hughes of The Walking Dead, The Journey is the Destination, will direct the first 2 episodes, end quote. So the scripts are out, tweeted by NX on Netflix as well. Interestingly enough, a bunch of story details leaked for this some time ago, but it wasn't clear if it was real. It now looks like it to be the case. These details match the plot from The Hollywood Reporter. I'm not going to read the plot because it could contain spoilers and I don't want to be spoiled. PAJ?
It does. I've read it. It does.
Oh, there you go. Fantastic. So I won't read it. Paul, look, Resident Evil's great. I feel like a real-time visiting, like set in some form of an alternate reality, but placed in reality, Raccoon City seems awesome. Like,
yeah,
I can't wait to see this. No, of course not. I mean,
and if it's kind of disconnected from the main series, then it allows them to get a little bit crazy with things and do things that maybe they couldn't do in the games, or those shocking Mila, what's it? How do you pronounce her name? Jovovich?
Yeah.
Films
Mila.
Like.
Go on, please. Yeah, Mila Jovovich.
Jovovich. Yeah, I don't know. I can't even visualize this.
You're talking about the film franchise.
So, the film franchise that's abysmal. For some reason, there's pockets of people that like, but whatever. Yeah. That's you do you, mate. Look, I think it's great. Netflix is obviously on a bit of a tear when it comes to these at the moment. They haven't missed yet. Between The Witcher, admittedly limited sample size, but you've got The Witcher, you've got Castlevania. They're both nailing it, and there's more to come. And they just seem to be getting good talent on it. Like to get people with the pedigree of these two, I'm a bit of a sucker for Supernatural. It's been a while since I've kind of dropped off the last few seasons, but I'll get to it one day.
Yeah.
To finish it off, I'm kind of keen on that. That speaks to me. Mm. So I'm keen to give it a go. And then of course there's the confirmation today that Resident Evil Village, which you might recall, there was the announcement. What was the PlayStation event? They said, you'll get more in August. They've kind of gone, hey, we're sorry, not August, but you're going to get some at TGS in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So that's some other Resident Evil news to kind of emerge today.
Interesting. Paul, the next story comes by way of Brian Barnett, over at IGN, who says Jeff Keighley wants E3 to evolve. This is from like an IGN Unfiltered, basically. But basically, the story reads is that Jeff Keighley wants E3 to evolve and adapt changing industry trends. That's part of the reason he quite broke up the show earlier this year. Ryan McCaffrey sat down with him and discussed a whole bunch of stuff. But the main quote of the story is Jeff saying, "You'll find no bigger fan of what E3 represents than me. And part of the reason I kind of broke up with E3, with what E3 was going to do this year is I did not believe that it was going to represent the industry in the right way and in the progressive way that it needed to be. That was hard for me, but I kind of had to take a stand for that." He goes on, "E3 really matters to me. I'm hopeful that E3 finds a way to evolve, and I haven't really talked a lot about this, but I put a lot of ideas in front of the ESA, which owns the E3, on how I want to see E3 evolve, and a lot of my ideas were very digital focused and global focused. It just didn't seem like they were ready to take that leap, and I understand because it's a legacy business of a trade show that it has to evolve into something new." Okay. We've discussed E3 many times over like the last couple of years on Dash Culture, this show and Ops.
Yeah.
E3 has gone to a point where the ESA cannot let it go. Like, as in, they can't let their current rendition of E3 go.
But they also can't let it go because it makes them too much money.
That's right. And obviously this year they would have felt that impact big time. Do you think that next year, though, like, guarantee E3 is not happening again next year, especially with the way that America is right now, with COVID?
Yeah, unless they ship it off to somewhere else around the globe.
Yeah,
like
there is no dice.
Plausible, but send it over here, guys. We'll take it.
Yeah, well,
maybe not in Melbourne, where it's still a bit of a shit show, but
LA Convention Centre's a massive hospital right now.
Yeah.
There's no way it's going to happen over there. So
we'll take it. We'll take it. Hands up.
Calm down.
No way. For years I wanted to go to E3, and now it can come to me instead.
We're not even guaranteed to have PAX next year. We're not even having our AFL Grand Final this year. Yeah, exactly.
It gives me the shits too. I've been promising Angelica that I'd take her to a Geelong Grand Final, and it's looking like it's going to be the case, and they fucking piss off.
So
anyway.
The problem is, look, Jeff's on the mark, right on the mark here. I feel like he's almost been trying to kind of deal with E3's troubles this year and hosting E3 in a way, and he's broken up some of the summer event specials that he's been having. I just feel like I miss E3 week. I miss the condensing it. You know, the impact E3 week has in gaming. It's Christmas, and we remember that for an entire year. We don't forget about E3, and you know, it just
Kevin Butler, pew pew.
It just
I'll never forget it.
It just
and the bad things too.
It just well, yeah, of course. I mean, nothing can be perfect coming out of an event full of freaking nerds. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Mr.
Caffeine. But the thing is, like E3 from June forward, it just runs throughout right to the end of the year. You feel that impact. Without it this year, it's been dead, and then we wanted more out of these companies. It's been basically like, okay, we're getting part. Now we're not getting enough information at all. We don't even know our console prices or anything, and we want to know stuff. Like, tell us more now, because as gamers, we're thirsty, we're hungry. Give us what we want. So.
Yeah, I mean, the ESA's got to look at the feedback around what's happened this year. And Jeff, I listened to the interview, and firstly, what Jeff said there, the stuff that was actually broken out for this article, incredibly sincere. Like, you could hear it in his voice how much of a love he has for E3. But he also spoke about how, like, you know, Summer Games Fest wasn't supposed to replace it. It was just like, nothing's happening. Let me try and, you know, pull a few strings, you know, speak to some friends of mine and try and get some little events and whatever, and try and promote the other stuff that other people are doing too, which did also cause a degree of confusion, because you get people saying, well, is this a Summer Games Fest thing or whatever? Because he would retweet the PlayStation event or whatever, or, you know, are you excited for the PlayStation or the Xbox reveal or whatever? Like, it can kind of blur the lines a little bit for some people as to what was him and what wasn't.
Yeah.
But then it kind of culminated in a, you know, Gamescom opening night live that was okay.
Yeah.
Like, there was some cool things, some games that I really loved out of it, but there was also some ho-hum.
Yeah.
And not even in there's a little bit for everyone, the old Adam Boyes quote, where there's 4 or 5 games for everyone. There was some genuinely ho-hum titles in there.
That's why we expected the prices. We talked about this last week on Ops. We were like, for sure, this Friday, it has to happen. We're at that point. Nothing.
Apparently we're not.
No, we still don't know.
But, I mean, look, there's a few things that E3 was already in a bit of strife for, and Jeff had already committed to leaving because he was already unhappy with the direction. They've maybe potentially managed to save a little bit of face because of COVID.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
It might actually be a half a blessing in disguise because it gives them a year to look at what everyone's done with all these digital events and go, what works and what doesn't? What can we pull on? What can we leave behind?
Okay.
So they might actually be a winner out of COVID 2020, and that is E3 2021 or 2022 or whenever it comes back.
I'm going to give it a couple of years before they probably could even think about it. But if they ever do decide like E3 can't go back to LA or anything like that, they'd probably have to move it somewhere else. And
yeah, but I mean, what Jeff's shown with like the PC Summer Games thing, all the demos and all that sort of stuff, they've shown that, and admittedly they're indies. It would be a lot harder, speak to Ubisoft and go, hey guys, can you make Assassin's Creed Valhalla playable to the public? But even what we've been able to experience getting, remote demos and those sorts of things, like that has been something that's come out of this that developers, publishers would never have considered before.
No. Yeah.
And maybe E3 can maybe it does become a fully digital event, but like they're still the arbiter of everything. They're in control of all the stuff that's going on. But then working under that, you've got PlayStation sending people demos of this and Xbox sending demos of that. And it might be possible. Like Nintendo probably doing none of it because they wouldn't know how to send a digital demo to someone at their home residence. Like, it's not going to work for them. What? Working online?
Speaking of Nintendo, the following comes by way of Nintendo Insider. Good segue, Page.
I'm setting you up tonight. Holy shit.
Rumour. Super Mario 3D Collection to be revealed this week. This is Alex Seedhouse over at Nintendo Insider, who says Nintendo will reveal the Super Mario 3D Collection this week, which has long been rumoured to be coming to the Nintendo Switch to celebrate the mustachioed icon's 35th anniversary. That's according to a report from True Gaming, who cite sources that have indicated that the compilation will be revealed in, quote, the first week of September, end quote. News about the Super Mario 3D Collection has emerged earlier this year, with sites such as Video Games Chronicle, Eurogamer, Gamatsu, and VentureBeat backing up each other's sources. The original plan was for the collection to be revealed at the Super Mario Bros. 30th anniversary event to coincide with E3 2020 in June, although the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the war prevented this from happening. As to what it contains, it is believed that the Super Mario 3D Collection will come packed with Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy, now remastered for a new generation to experience on a portable home console. There's also been rumblings that Super Mario 3D World Deluxe will release on Nintendo Switch, which has received additional content beyond the original Wii U release. I want the Super Mario 3D World remaster already, because I can't believe they actually haven't released that, man. That's...
Yeah, I mean, they're getting there. I mean, we've seen... there's not many things that are left. No. Pikmin 3 is obviously about to come out in a month from now.
Yep.
Thank God, because in my mind, that's the best game on the Wii U.
Yeah.
Not even joking. But there's 3D World, there's Xenoblade Chronicles X. There's still a few titles that still need to make that jump, and Nintendo recognises the Wii U is the biggest flop they've ever put out, and they are trying to get all the games off there. I just wish they'd do it at a slightly faster clip than they're currently doing.
Yeah.
Can we just put Galaxy 2 in this bundle too, please?
That's what I was going to say. How do you admit Galaxy 2?
Yeah, that's my concern out of this. As brilliant as it might be, and see them all remastered, maybe even some of them getting remakes, which I could imagine 64 being properly remade. Like, okay, same design, all that, and I guess the Crash Bandicoot, Insane Trilogy style thing, where it's the exact same levels, looks and feels the same, looks better.
Yeah,
geez, that'd be incredible. But to not have Galaxy 2 in there is a big miss.
You just reminded me of something, and I forgot to put this into the doc actually for this week. Continuing on with this Super Mario 35th anniversary, as I look for the article from Press Start, of course. But the thing is, Yes, it is. It's a Shannon article. But do you think that we're going to be getting this collection? Like they talk about, we'll release this collection on the Switch and everything. Do you think it's going to be built from the ground up, remastered, or do you think we're just going to get an emulation port?
The cynic in me says that it's just going to be a port, and that's exactly what happened with the Wii All Stars, like when they kind of remade or re-released the Super Mario All Stars from the Super Nintendo. It was basically just the ROMs, and they just put them on a disc and out they went. But they also did cop a fair bit of backlash for that. So, I'm hopeful that there's a little bit more love, tender love and care given to this.
Do you know how much that
remains to be seen?
Do you know how much that's worth now?
That Wii collection. How much? Because I've got it.
The Super Mario All Stars Anniversary Collection, the box version, it's worth a few $100s.
Oh, that's not nearly enough for me to sell
it. It's worth a bit now, more than what. It was like $30 when it first came out. I was considering it. I could have gotten it for like $20 because I was working at JB at the time.
Oh wow, $250 at eBay. At eBay.
eBay. I told you, man, it's worth a couple of $100, and if it's in really good nick, you can sell it for more.
Oh, mine's is. I mean, I guess it'll be. I suppose it can't be mint because it's not in its wrapping anymore. But
anyway, this one comes by way of Shannon over at Press Start, the last article of the night, Paj. He says the Nintendo Switch Pro will apparently target 4K graphics with a heap of 2021 Switch games on the way. Earlier today, we wrote about the fact that a new Nintendo Switch looks to be coming in early 2021, with production set to start later this year. Bloomberg has now followed up with a report that suggests that the Nintendo Switch console that is rumored to release in 2021, expected to be a Nintendo Switch Pro console, will target 4K graphics. It's unclear at this point if it will be 4K purely from an output, with games still running at 1080p, or if Nintendo has worked with NVIDIA to get some form of DLSS 2.00 on the system, which is the GPU set. Nintendo is also preparing a quote slew of games from Nintendo and related outside studios, end quote. These games will address a wide range of players, ranging from casual gamers to more hardcore games. This obviously makes sense given the fact that Nintendo has had a quiet 2020, relying heavily on Animal Crossing New Horizons, which is pretty much true. I was discussing that with Drew the other night. It's just dead.
They're still hanging on to that one, which, the game's huge, but it only lasts so long.
Okay, so the reason I bring this up as well, Paj, is because, once again, I just built myself a brand new PC. Yeah. And I've been mucking around with emulation on it as well. And, texture packs and all that kind of stuff running Dolphin. Super Mario Galaxy on this thing looks mesmerizing. It looks so good. And given the fact that I can inject those texture packs into it and make it look even better, it makes me think to myself, man, I really hope that Nintendo can outclass this, because given the fact that I can run Galaxy on this thing at 60 frames per second at 4K and on my TV, and use the original hardware, as in the Wii remote and the nunchuck and a wireless sensor bar, I'm set. But if they release a shitty port emulated on the Switch, people are gonna be so mad, especially for the fact that this is rumored to come out next year.
Only because Nintendo fans are... Sorry, I'm painting with an extraordinarily broad brush here. Nintendo fans are dickheads on the internet. So not all of them. Obviously, someone like yourself or Drew or whatever. Yeah. Different basket.
Yeah.
But they're awful. Look, at the end of the day, there's still it's a very, very small minority who've been able to rig things up the way that you have in order to be able to do that. Most people don't know about this. The general consumer, the general Nintendo fan.
No, yeah.
Doesn't know about all this stuff and has never seen what it looks like in
4K,
Ultra HD or 4K or 60 frames
so
or whatever.
Good.
I'm sure it does, and I kind of want to learn your ways, but it doesn't matter to them. Yeah. So, and I think most people, myself included, would be very happy if it can. Well, I do have an expectation that I get an HD version of this stuff, and it actually does get a little bit of an overhaul.
Yeah,
I'm not looking for a big remake out of something like Galaxy, because it's still new enough that I could see why they wouldn't versus something like Mario 64. Because when you compare that to the others, it's going to look and feel very dated.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. It's just sort of shit at Nintendo.
Yeah, I understand that. Look,
the new console's enticing to me.
Well, the thing is, the highest resolution you could play Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 at the time was 480p, and you needed the component cables to do that at the time.
It still looks stunning.
Yeah, exactly. It still looks all right. I guess even if you play a VHDMI through a Wii U on Wii mode, it still looks good. But you still get that 480p resolution.
Yeah.
But if they were to have a native 1080p at least running on a Switch docked,
I'll be beside myself.
I'll be happy with that. I'll be truly happy with that fact. Or satisfied.
Well, given that a super powered Switch is still only a rumor, like if they release at the end of the year and it's 1080p, fine. If they then go in and ask the Pro and they say, hey, but if you get it, pop it into your Pro or whatever they call it, there's a patch that unlocks 4K mode. Great, okay, even better.
Yeah,
I'm okay with 1080p.
Yeah, same.
Game review.
Okay, Paj, let's talk a little bit about Avengers. Thanks to the kind folk over at Bandai Namco and Square Enix, we have gone to sit down and check it out, at least for the first couple of hours, because we only received our codes today. So pretty much what we've played so far has already been experienced basically in the beta. So
yeah, and that's the important thing to disclose here is that my time with it, I'm still downloading it. I've paused it so that we could do the show tonight, so I didn't destroy the show for us tonight. Everything for me is based on the beta.
Yep.
You've been playing the full release earlier today.
Yep. So I want to stress that before this, my initial impressions of the title were positive. I was shitting on it. I'm not going to lie. It looked like crap. Look, I've already expressed my feelings on the show before that the title looked like poo. It did not look great. Especially for a title that was. Look, there is a certain standard I believe in that when you are casting people like Nolan North, Troy Baker, Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham into a title,
etc.
Yeah, it has to be that of high caliber, classed as high caliber. It has to be fun, look great, everything. When the reveal trailer released for the title back at E3, was it 2 years ago?
Last year.
Was it last year? I thought it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
that was
because I was in this house at the time.
Oh, that's right. You're right. We're doing the special. It looked like butt. It didn't look good. You can't tell me that game looked great when they revealed it.
No, it didn't. No. It was a really rocky start. And my impressions of the game have been, I wouldn't go as far as say rock bottom, but they were quite low. And they've just gradually, and thankfully I've been fortunate enough through a few different opportunities to get various different, levels of exposure, including speaking to Scott Amos, the head of the studio. So, nice. That gave me a little bit of an edge over general consumer as well.
Yeah.
But my impressions have just steadily improved from every single time that it gets revealed to the world. Hell, we've even got a War Table presentation coming tomorrow.
Awesome. Look, my initial impressions so far of the game actually have been overturned, and I think that it's actually quite fun. Playing for the first couple of hours, I still feel almost there are a couple of things that do bug me. There is a lot of texture pop-in. There is a lot of graphical lag in terms of actually model pop-in as well. There's a scene at the beginning, and I'm playing it right now, where you have these men in SWAT gear, and they pop out of the back of a truck. And when they pop out of the back of the truck with their shields, the shields don't pop up for a couple of seconds, and I'm like, oh, rough.
Is this the Golden Gate Bridge thing?
Correct. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And once again, a lot of texture pop-in occurs in this scene. However, it doesn't really when you're flying, and there's a scene right now with Tony Stark flying as Iron Man on the video right now on the video feed. This actually looks alright. It actually looked really good in motion. It was just like when everything kind of stops and you're in action mode, and you're basically hitting people with either Thor's hammer or just even punching people as Iron Man. There were moments in the environment that didn't have the textures completely loaded, and I was like, oh man, that's rough.
But I do feel like you're less likely to notice it because your focus is drawn to the actual action itself. Right. It's when you take screenshots or maybe what you're watching someone's Let's Play and you pause it or something like that, you're going to start to notice that stuff a lot more.
Yeah.
And also, it's probably stuff that'll be patched out as well. But those things will exist in special circumstances, or will be noticed, I should say, in special circumstances. They're not going to be the general consumer's experience because of what they're doing with it.
I did experience some bugs, especially like some clipping that happened. So as Tony Stark, I actually clipped through a couple of the cars, or I should say the tanks, and I was like, okay, all right, just warping right through tanks, no problem.
I mean, he's a superhero. Who's to say he can't do it?
Also, and it was actually just displayed on the video before, I experienced something kind of like where his model went into like a T-pose and then kind of skated back a little bit. It was just a weird bug that happened to me.
It's some weird end of mocap stuff. You know how like when people go into mocap, they record the scene and then they put the T-pose out after.
Yeah. Well, T-pose is when, they're designing models and everything. So like it went to T-pose mode with Iron Man at one point. That's a bug, obviously, that happened. But I got to say, when I started playing as Hulk, man, far out. Loved it. That's where I immediately fell in love with the title. I was like, man, Hulk is a beast here. And loved this title's rendition of him. Obviously, they took a lot of influence from Mark Ruffalo's Hulk in this title as well. So, and that's the other thing. Like, I feel like out of any of the Avengers right now, Hulk's probably the most, in terms of adaptation and everything, Hulk's the most familiar because it really does look like Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. And, even from his personality and attitude, voiced by Troy Baker as Tony
Stark.
Yeah. No. Troy Baker actually voices, what's his face? Banner. Bruce Banner. So he voices Bruce Banner while Troy Baker voices Troy Baker voices Bruce Banner. Noel North does Tony Stark.
It's Tony Stark. Yeah.
Laura Bailey does I don't know.
Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow. Yeah, and you're gonna notice a few other voice actors throughout.
Yeah, Travis Willingham, like you mentioned
as
before.
Thor. Yeah. So it's one of those things where, like I expected just a little more though in terms of, I don't know, man. It really does seem okay right now. We'll see how it progresses. I guess I'm expecting a little bit more of a climactic finish.
I mean, the story's what's going to drive things a lot here for people, and you're either going to like it, or you won't. People got expectations set a certain way based on the MCU in particular. Obviously, the mass audience came on with the MCU, not so much the comics.
Yeah,
that was obviously the comic book crowd initially.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a swath of different perspectives coming at this.
Yeah,
and then they're trying to tell a tale where we've got a little bit of uncanny valley with some of our characters, and it's going to be divisive in that regard. But I'm confident in the story that they're looking to tell here. It's my experience is fairly equal to yours at this point. Again, just having played, but the beta versus you've probably played parts that I haven't because they did skip ahead in the beta.
Okay, all right.
So I don't. There's probably things that I don't, and vice versa.
Fair enough.
But like it was a promising beginning from what I got from there. And
That's good.
I'm really keen to actually finish this download and
get going,
get cracking tonight/tomorrow.
I should mention that so while Troy Baker voices Bruce Banner, Darren DePaul does the voice of the Hulk. Darren DePaul also voices one of the characters from Overwatch as well. So like anybody out there will probably be able to hear his voice when you're playing as Hulk. So it's two different actors playing the same character there. But in terms of for like gameplay as well, gameplay feels solid. Like it actually is quite rapid in pacing. It's quite expeditious, quite fast. I liked what I played of it thus far. It really does feel like a great action adventure title that, while it may lack aesthetically in some cases and may seem a little bland in textures more than model, in some part models look a little outdated too. Kind of remind me a little bit of PlayStation 3 at times. But
oh, look, again, there is this, little catch with the whole online shared world thing that I think we are going to get consistently, just slightly lesser character models, visual design, art design, real fidelity to these pictures than what we get from The Last of Us Part 2, or I shouldn't use the absolute benchmark from other AAA titles.
Right. Do you think, though, that in that case that they could have said, okay, are you playing online right now? And then we'll kind of, have it in two ways. Yeah.
Because you can basically drop in and drop out, though. Like, I think you'd want one consistent thing, because if someone just drops into your game and all of a sudden everything just goes, drops a notch, that's going to piss people off, or it's going to be very jarring.
Yeah, so, it definitely would be.
You don't want that.
Look, from my initial impression so far, game's excellent. I can't wait for other people to actually talk about it when it comes out later this week on Friday. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, deluxe owners, pre-order people, you can get it now. Early access, but yeah, everyone else, Friday.
Yep.
Global gaming releases.
All right, Paj, it is time for the Dash Gamer Global Gaming releases for the week. Paj, what have we got?
Thanks, VG247. We've got Ari and the Secret of Seasons. It's out now.
Yeah.
You've got Tony Hawk, Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remaster, September 4th, so this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Marvel's Avengers, we just mentioned in the last segment there. It's out now for deluxe edition pre-order people, and everyone else September 4th, so that's this Friday.
Yep.
NBA 2K21, same deal, this Friday.
Yep.
Next week, we've got Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning, which is a game that I'm super keen to get into because I really loved everything that I saw of the original game, and I just never ended up getting to it. It just kind of disappeared into the crowd there.
Yeah.
Tamarin is one that got a release date announced at Gamescom just last week. It's got a whole bunch of ex-Rare developers on it. It's a Tamarin, but it's really inspired by Jet Force Gemini.
Oh, nice.
And looks stunning. I don't know if you've seen any of this game. It looks absolutely phenomenal visually.
No.
And I'm really hopeful it plays quite well as well. They've got some really cool talent working on the game. So that's out September 10th.
Nice.
And just sneaking in before the next episode goes live is Spelunky 2, which I didn't realise it was coming out so soon, but Spelunky 2.
There you go. Spelunky 2 is coming out September 15th. That's it for this episode, guys. If you didn't know, this has been the Dash Gamer podcast, the bi-weekly conversational podcast where we get together and talk about the latest in the world of video gaming. You can follow Mr. Paul James on Twitter at PaulJamesGames. You can follow myself on Twitter at DashGamer. Don't forget to follow the show over on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. Give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. They surely help us out. And also catch the VOD over on dashgamer.com, YouTube. Give us a subscribe. Hit that bell. Surely helps us out. I'll see Mr. Paul James next week on Operation PlayStation as we talk all about the latest in the world of PlayStation. But this would be Paj's last DGP for a little while.
Gone but not forgotten. R.I.P.
He'll be back in the new year.
Riding into the sunset.
He'll be back in the new year with us.
Screaming child and
there might be the occasional case that he might come on and talk about some stuff, but more than likely, Paj will be
I'm definitely, and we've discussed this off camera. I'm definitely keen to kind of pop in, do some little cameos or whatever at various points. I'm not going to be not gaming. As evidenced by the fact that I'm still going to be on Ops.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can't help myself with the brand new console.
PlayStation and Xbox.
If I've got a little baby, well, great. She can sleep on my chest while I play.
That's right.
But I'm contributing.
But I'll catch you guys for DGP in another 2 weeks with either Joel or Joel.
Someone that plays video games.
Yeah. But until then, stay safe, take care of each other, wear your mask, and wash your hands.
DashGamer.com